back, everyone. We got our G366. This is our race saw, two-piece head, big carb. This is the gas saw. It's all put together. Finally got it all done. Everything works. I've even fired it up already. But we're going to get the first test cuts before we even do any dyno. Like I said, I'm kind of scared of this. I put it together, plus who knows how it was assembled over there. And we're going to be spinning it hard, and hopefully it makes good power. This is our other 65cc, our Poulan Pro 425. This was the one that we won the Sawfest class with. This saw here put up almost 9 horse as it sits. So I'm going to put 3/8/7s on both of them. And they're both going to run 20-inch bar. And I'm going to swap the chain from one to the other. And we'll see if our little 366 racer can compete with our 65cc class saw. I'd like to think so. We got the two-piece head, we got the bigger carb. So leave a comment, let me know if you think this little blue saw will keep up with our 65cc saw. It's giving up a bit of displacement, but I've got a nice fresh C83 chain I'll put on both, and we'll see how these cuts go. Alright, so we got the bars and chains on. Now we can go get that piece cut up. I had this one fired off earlier, so I'll see if it fires back up. There's no choke or nothing, so we'll see. Alright, not too bad. We'll get that idle dialed in a little bit better out there. But so far, fired right up. Compression seems alright. Everything seems to be working. So we'll go get our test cuts made. Alrighty, so we got our Poulan all warmed up. This is our 65cc. It's pretty sporty. Husky C83 chain, 7-pin sprocket. And I think the tune's pretty close. I'll make a couple of cuts with this. If I don't like the tune, I'll adjust it. We'll make a couple cuts, then we'll go to our blue clone and see how it does with this same exact chain. Alright, I'm pretty happy with those cuts. Like I said, this is just good chunk of softwood. I want to say some kind of poplar. If you guys can tell from the bark, leave a comment. But I'll swap this chain over to our blue saw. We'll get that all warmed up, tuned in, see how it does. Alrighty, let's see if our little blue saw has anything for that Poulan. I'll make a couple of warm-up cuts, make sure the tune's good, and then we'll make our same 2, 3, 4 cuts. See how it does. Same exact chain, different bar, they're different mounts. This is what I had. too bad. I'll have to look at the actual results, but we'll go inside and we'll take a peek under the covers. Alrighty, so here, up close, personal. This is our race. This is our, what we got? The other one's a mild one. This is our wild one. So this is our wild racer here. You can see still stock appearing, minus the brake flag. Should be cooled down enough now. I finished off that log. But we got, this is just a round V-stack type adapter. And if I try and actually cut some firewood with this, I can slip one of the filters over. Let me show you. This is one of Redbeard's filters. So we can just send over like so, clamp it on, and run no cover. But I had to make a throttle linkage. On-off switch still works like normal. Still get to the screws. This is a big old WG carb. I moved the fuel pickup line. Still doing the factory impulse line. This is our 10mm plug, angle head. Now I ran this a lot. Pretty much half a tank right there. Cut after cut. I did a few more cuts after the video that you guys seen. Just trying to get a feel for it. So I haven't checked these head bolts. Make sure they stay nice and tight. Like I said, I ran this more than it should be run. But that's what I planned on doing with it. That's what I'm going to do with it. But you can see this is what we got. Here's our head. Handlebar mounts to it. 10mm plug. That's the stud for the top cover. There's our big WG carb. Stack adapter. No choke. Just wide open, bare bones, race saw type stuff. But let me set you back on the other one. We'll take a look at the actual cut times. And, I don't know, maybe, just maybe we'll get this one put on the dyno. Alrighty, so, this Poulan here, it's actually a pretty wicked little critter. But that first cut, I was just trying to remember what it felt like, because I'd only ever ran this at Sawfest. The second cut, I was really pushing on it and it liked it, so you can tell that cut was definitely the fastest. The third cut, I was just letting the saw sit there, do its thing. All the cuts with the 366, they were getting pushed on. That's where it felt the fastest. Now both these are running a 7, so maybe stepping up to an 8 would be just right. But same thing, we're just using that C83, same one that we used on the Poulan. So although not the same bar, it was the same exact chain on both of them. Poulan went first, then our clone saw, and that was some type of poplar, maybe even cottonwood, I'm not 100% sure. That was a solid fresh piece and pretty similar to what you'd be racing in. There weren't really any knots that we got into. And on the race saw, it definitely liked the cool, fresh cuts right off the bat. But leave a comment, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want to see some more of this Poulan on the channel. Said this thing's definitely a good cutter, and it's still a firewood type build, full air filter, everything else, just like at Sawfest. Then we're gonna keep going with our race saw, get it fully dialed in, chained up, ready to go, and see if we can't make it even faster. But before we do all that, I decided we are gonna get this strapped into the dyno and see what kind of power it actually puts out. Feeling pretty good about the numbers it's gonna put out. So we'll see what it'll actually do. Plus now I've got my test cuts done. I'm not worried about if it blows up or breaks or anything. And we've got a whole year to fix it if it does. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hopefully it puts up some good numbers. Alright, so we'll do some dyno pulls on our wild 366 here. Now I will have to go in eventually. Probably drill on the carb. I can't get the high as rich as I'd like it. But everything's all cooled down, tank's full. We'll get a few pulls, see where the power's at. So, just got a racer off the dyno. I was feeling pretty good about it after those cut times with the Poulan. Now after checking the cut times on that Poulan, I realized the first cut, just letting it do its thing, getting a feel for it. Second cut when I was pushing was the fastest. And the third cut, just kind of let the saw do its thing. That was one of the slower cuts. Then this, in the wood, was only about 0.3 seconds or real close to 12% behind the fastest cut with our Poulan 65cc. So 12% off wasn't too bad. Still trying to get a feel for this one. But after putting it on the dyno, I kind of got humbled a little bit by one of our previous sporty 361 builds. So I'll have that on the graph with it. But I will say, little bit of wind let out of the sails. That's it's never good to go from a high to a low like that. But it is what it is, and that's what we get with these saws. It's all learning experience. Awful lot of work went into this one to fit, work, do everything the way it's supposed to. And for it to be matched by a firewood build that I put out last spring, it kind of a kick in the pants right there. But it is what it is, and I think there's a few things we can do. I could not richen this saw any. I had the high-speed needle almost 4 turns out, and it still wasn't dropping the RPM any. It was staying right between 15.5 and 16,000 RPM on the tack. Wide open, no load. So, we might actually be holding this one back. It might actually want some fuel on the top end. So I have to go in this carb, open up some passages, try and get some fuel, and see if that helps. Then we could tweak the timing a little bit. Maybe it wants a little advance. Maybe it wants taking a little bit of timing away. I think the port works sound in this. I think the durations are pretty sound. But I want to try getting the carb fueling first. Then we can play with the timing a little bit. And then maybe even get the muffler. Unless something really jumps out at me, I think we'll leave the porting alone. And we'll just try all the other things to see if we can get some power out of this one. But that just goes to show that there's a lot more to making good power than a 2-piece head and a giant carburetor. I mean, this thing still idles pretty good. Like I said, it definitely surprised me. Hopefully you guys can learn a little bit from this too. Definitely more than a little bit irritated. All this extra work didn't really add up to much, as you'll see on the graph. So that brings us to our third build. I was going to go even more extreme than what this one is, but I'd really hate to waste time and effort on something that might not even make us any more power than where our mild 366 is going to end up. So I don't know. I'll have to think about what direction to go with that third one. Leave a comment, let me know what you guys want to see, and I'll dabble with this carb a little bit, get a little bit of the juices flowing again, but I'm pretty let down by this one. So we'll take a look at this graph and let me know what you guys think. Alright, here's our wild 366, 8.07 horse, 4.28 foot-pounds. This was the one that kind of did it in for me. This was that sporty 361. We got a video of it. I don't know, it's been close to a year now. 8.02 horse, 4.38. This is just one of the runs. I don't even know if this was the best run for it. But, like I said, this was just a regular, not a regular, this was a sporty firewood saw. That's what he wanted. And we also did the tune pipe for it. But you could see, yeah, I had to use my pointer stick for a throttle linkage on that saw. So we're down to the T handle. But you can see that firewood saw isn't giving up anything anywhere to our wild ported one. And down here, the blue line, this was the baseline run for our wild saw. So we gained 3 horse, 501 to 807, and we gained over 1 full, almost 1.1 foot-pounds of torque. So we gained power everywhere over stock, and it definitely reaches up there. It's peaking high. And that's where I think if we can get that fueling dialed in and timing dialed in, we might be able to actually increase this number. or we might just be able to waste a bunch more time and not be any faster than a firewood saw. But that's all part of it. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And like I said, I'm going to keep tinkering away on this one a little bit. But I need to figure out which direction we want to go with that third saw we're going to build. I was hoping for mild, wild, and extreme, but this wild one kind of went the wrong direction for whatever reason. I'm hoping I can just stumble on something and unlock a ton of power. I don't think I'm going to get that lucky, but maybe. So leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this build. Let me know how you think it did versus that Poulan. And what direction you want to see him go. And until next time, thanks a lot, everyone.